The first tool that we talked about is a story mix, if you remember. The story mix is all the ingredients that go into the story, and we named three. What are those three? The people who are in the story, the places that are there in the story, and then all the events that happen in the story. Who are the people in the story? Okay, let's name them. Let's name the people in the Three Little Pigs story, the characters. The characters are the Three Little Pigs. Those are the main characters there. Then you have the big bad wolf, who's the villain of the story. Then you have, not to forget, Mama Pig, the mother pig. So you have at least 3 plus 1, 4, 5 characters there. Now, if you were to look at these characters, you would find that each of them are quite different. Although we say Three Little Pigs as if they were one group, you look at them a little more closely, you would find that each of those pigs are quite different. Did you notice that? And the child said, yes. Yes, I remember that. The smallest one was a sleepy pig. He wanted to build his house quickly and go to sleep. And the middle pig was a playful pig. He wanted to build his house quickly and go and play. And the oldest one was a kind of a serious person who wanted to build his house properly, a strong house. He was willing to spend more time on it. And he was also a person who could think of an idea very quickly, because when the wolf came, he knew what to do. He also sounded very confident. Great, said the old storyteller. Now that you know how the pigs are different, when you tell the story and you know each character very well, then when you tell the story, you can bring in small differences to show how that character is feeling. That's why we should know how many characters are there and how those characters are likely to behave, are likely to act, are likely to talk. Now, look at the big bad wolf as a character. The big bad wolf is a villain, and he is probably stronger than all the three pigs, and he knows it. And he is a menacing person. He's a villain. So he is going to talk in a particular way and he's going to act in a particular way. He knows his strength. He's also very clever because he can think of new plans. And he likes to intimidate or scare those young, smaller animals. So that's how he's going to behave. Mama Pig could have probably been a little tired watching all these three little pigs, lazing around at home. And she thought, it's better time for them to go and do something by themselves, like mothers usually do, So we have all these different characters there, and it's important for us to know, who these characters are. Now let's look at where is this story happening. So the first part of the story is happening in the mother pig's house, which is a cozy, nice place. And then you have three other houses, the one made with straw, the one made with twigs, and the one made with stone. Now, because the first two are quite weak, there's a particular way in which we look at a weak house. And there is the stone house, which is very strong. So that's a contrast there of two different kinds of houses. And it's important for us to know that when we tell the story, that one is a strong house. The other two are fairly weak, can be blown away by the wolf. So that's the setting of the story. And these houses are not too far from each other, the new houses that they built. It's a bit far from the mama pig's house, but it's between them. They're quite close by, so the pigs can run from one house to the next. The last part is the plot. By plot, we mean what's happening in the story that makes it interesting. What's the most interesting thing about the story? Why is it that children love the story? Why do you love the story? Well, if I think about it, said the child, it could be because the wolf is out to eat them and the pigs have to escape. It's like an adventure story. Yes. You see how there's a chase in the story? The wolf is always giving chase. The pigs are running away, trying to escape. And then finally, the pigs have to find an idea by which they can defeat the wolf. It's an interesting story because a small pig is now fighting against a big wolf and defeating the wolf. So there's a lot of adventure, the sense of what's going to happen next. Because will the wolf eat the pig or will the pigs escape? Constantly not sure until the very end when the wolf meets his end. So there's a lot of excitement in the story. There's one thing happening after the other. And there are a series of events that makes it interesting for the listener. Listen, so first the mama pig sends them out into the world. And that's the first major event. Okay. The second event is where each of them builds their own houses. Let's call that event 2. The third is when the big bad wolf comes knocking. And then he goes to each house and there's something very similar that he says in each place. And the reactions also are quite similar except in the last house. And then the last part is where he thinks of a new plan and he steps onto the chimney. Okay, so the 4 major events there and strung together make the plot, make what happens in the story. And this is very interesting stuff. Once we've understood that this is how our story is, it has its characters, which are these many people, and this is how they are likely to behave. And this is where the story is set in this place. And then we know how the story moves, it progresses. Once we have that in place, our story makes us ready. For any story that we write, we then need to have these characters, setting and plot in place. Any story that we tell, we know what these 3 are. So our story is fixed in our minds. And then we tell it with great effect because we know our story makes very well. So that's the first step. Next, we're going to talk about the story map.